Is
But
that what we're
Terry,
talking about now? Women's wrestling?
Well, we're about to if you let me introduce it. You always step on my feet there. So, anyway, this week's top 10, and some of you, we thank you for voting. Top 10 women's wrestlers. But hold up before we get going. I went to a local show last night with New South, and I've seen a lot of women wrestlers in the indies, and they are fantastic. And I got to tell you, I didn't watch wrestling between 99 and 19. And between that time and me coming back, women's wrestling revolutionized the industry.
I agree.
I mean, and it just completely changed. It is now to the point where a few years ago they had their own pay-per-view
Hmm.
in WWE. They have main evented other pay-per-views because they're worthy of that. It's not that they're being given something they don't deserve. They deserve that. But my point that I wanted to make here is not only are we going down the list of these WWE and AEW and historical stars, if you've got a show close to you, go help those people out. Pay your
Mm-hmm.
25 to go get a seat and be right there by the action because you won't regret it. Want to throw that out before we get going. But today's going to be top 10 women wrestlers, and number 10.
Hold on, because I have to do it to you, because we forgot something. Before Terry gets to number 10, these are favorites. We did not rank them by best or whatever. We did put Trish Stratus on the list. I'm of the age where there are a lot of guys Trish Stratus was a favorite of for a very long time. So I'm going to qualify that number one. Number two, something that we didn't see until Saturday, Terry, and I can't believe we forgot it in the coverage. Jessica Carr refereed the AJ Styles Cody
Mm.
Rhodes match, world championship match, first female referee to referee a world title match. So we will, at least in WWE, because Aubrey may have in AEW, we will continue to see that, I think, under the Triple H regime, where you're going to see more of those first this, first that. But I dare say Aubrey Edwards has refereed a match in AEW for the world title. Um, but for WWE, Jessica Carr, first to ever referee a world title match, and we should have congratulated her for that. But this works because, nobody knew what the top 10 was till 4 minutes ago.
All right, number
And
10.
I don't know what it is. Number 10. Oh,
Number 10, Bianca
Oh no.
Belair.
here we go. Just starting shit early. Mm.
I mean, so she's a favorite of mine because a lot of people out there don't know this, but she made her own gear when she started. She still continues to do some of it now, but she does outsource some of it out. But think about that. You're training, you're wrestling, you're traveling, and you're making your own gear. Like, to me, that's an all around winner.
Yeah, and I'm waiting on Andrew to just jump in here
I
because I
know.
know he has a lot to say. I guess he's letting us get all our stuff out first, right? Is that what's going on? Okay, so obviously, Bianca, I'm going to go real slow so it just delays it and messes with it. Bianca Belair, very worthy of being on this list. She's really come on strong over the last couple of years and shown up as the cream of the crop for WWE. Andrew, do you have any
Anything?
kind of thoughts on this at all?
10 years. The presentation, the hair, the body, the fitness, the matches. She absolutely deserves to be on the list. And quite frankly, she deserves to be higher. But as I said, because you didn't, even though I put it in the note in capital letters, this is people's favorites,
It is
not
whatever they, well,
necessarily
hold on. No,
best
it's
wrestler.
whatever they want it to be.
Yeah.
We don't tell people how to vote. They vote
Well, no,
however.
I'm saying we said favorites when we released the poll, buddy.
I
So
don't know
we
that
put
we
that
did.
we, we put that in social media. Yeah, we put it on the Facebooks. Um, I don't care.
I know
She's
she's in
higher
your
than 10.
top. She's in your top three, right, Andrew?
Easily. Yeah, because I forget who I put in number one, but it wasn't her. But she may have been two or three. Oh, I know
All
who
right.
I put at number one. Yeah, she was definitely number two or three.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. But anyway, very well deserving. And by the way, because our fans don't know this if they didn't vote, there were 96 women on the list. That's how good women's wrestling is these days.
I don't know if it was 96, but it was quite a few.
It's an estimation.
Number 9.
And Terry forgot some.
Terry forgot some. Sherry Martell's number 9. It's always Terry that forgets them.
You published the poll.
I put the lists together, but that's
Good
okay.
Lord.
He publishes the polls. Blame
Sherry
him.
Martell. And let me tell you, I looked for wrestling images here because when you go Googling for pictures of women wrestlers, you got to dig through a lot, especially with Sherry Martell because she was a valet a lot. I wanted a wrestling image, and that's what I found.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I already spoke on Sherry Martell on Talking Wrestling with Palmwater Dave, one of our sister shows on the Wrestling and More network. The fact that Hulk Hogan would work with Sherry Martell and handpicked her during the Mega Powers Explode angle tells you all you need to know. Because for those of you playing along at home, that was 1988. The biggest year in 89. The biggest years in professional wrestling in the golden era. They were making money hand over fist in WWE. They were running 3 towns, and on top, it was Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. And Sherry was the manager of the Macho Man, or the Macho King, as he would become. She also went on to manage Ted DiBiase, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, and the Harlem Heat. So that was just the managing. And why was she a manager? Because they didn't have any women to wrestle other than Medusa and then the Japanese contingent, and that doesn't happen in North America. So, Sherry Martell, very deserving of being on this list. And somebody who, as I said, is probably 10 years too early, if you want to be honest about it. But fantastic worker, great bump taker, professional. And you know she was good, even with the drug abuse and all that stuff, that nobody has a bad word to say about Sherry's work or the way she carried herself or the human being that she was.
Amen.
You got it.
Good job getting her to number 9, guys. Number 8, Mickey James.
Wow. I'm surprised at this one.
Well, this might be a lot of looks here.
Yeah.
Depending on who voted.
Don't vote. Don't blame me. I didn't vote for her this high.
I didn't vote. So I didn't vote for her either. That's why I said I'm surprised to see her this high. But
yeah,
she has an aesthetic. Okay. And I mean, she can work, but to me, she's not a standout. So
right.
One of her contributions is the organization, though, of making women's wrestling important.
Absolutely.
And she did that at both TNA and NWA. So she has made some serious contributions. As far as a wrestler, I wouldn't have put her on the list, but again, administrator, contributor, somebody who people look up to, and she's a capable hand, don't get me wrong, but she was in that weird transition period too, when you're wrestling Trish and Jackie and Ivory and what's her name? I always forget her name. She was really Victoria, really good wrestler. So, but not even in the quality of wrestler you have today in the women's division.
She played a role. I mean, she definitely played a role, and she's been around a while and still going. So, I mean, she deserves credit for the longevity, I think.
Yeah, because she first debuted against Trish in what, 06 or 05?
Wow, yeah.
And she did that crazy stalker angle and all that stuff and was very risque. Thank you, Vince. In the initial angle. But yeah, that's
right.
Number 7, Medusa.
Yeah. Can't talk about women's wrestling without Medusa. And that's a fact.
Nope.
And we don't refer to her as Alundra Blaze, it's Medusa.
Although I did find a picture that's Alundra Blaze. So even with Medusa, it was a little harder to find. I mean, obviously she's not just in wrestling. She's done monster trucks and stuff too. So there's pictures of that. But even with Medusa, you go Googling for pictures, it's going to be some non-ring action shots for the most part.
Yep. And arguably one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic thing people remember Medusa for was the 1992 War Games climbing the cage in high heels and an evening gown. to give Arn Anderson the phone Paulie dangerously carried and have Sting chase her up the cage and then down the cage. That's an athlete to climb a steel cage, cyclone fence, by the way, not the blue cage gimmick,
Right.
in high heels and an evening gown.
Yeah. No.
And the other thing was she had no dance partners. This is Bertha Faye, by the way. So this is WWF early 94, 95 when they were wrestling for the World Championship. But she had Bull Nakano, hell of a dance partner. Had Sher Martell, hell of a dance partner. But outside of her going to Japan, she didn't have women to work with in the 90s. And that's a damn shame.
So she had to become a valet herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, she became a valet, and if you remember, she was part of Team Savage, and that was when she was very top heavy because she did the implant gimmick. And
Saw those pictures when I Googled, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's the unfortunate thing about it. But handspring elbow kicks. I mean, crisp, clean, good worker. And even as a valet for mostly Rick Rude during the Dangerous Alliance run and Savage, she always enhanced him. Never overshadowed him.
Well, and also I want to mention this for those that don't know. I know those that are AFS top guys. We do the thing with what's her name?
Rebel.
Every couple of weeks, Rebel. But a couple of years ago, Medusa was doing that too, and some pretty good conversations with Medusa with us with some of the AFS folks back then. It's too bad that didn't last long because I thought it was really good, interesting conversation.
Yep. All
Number
right.
6, China.
She was on my list.
I mean, just look at her.
She
Tried
was
to
up on
find a
my
good
list.
shot.
Yeah.
I mean, she is. I talk a lot about the intergender matches. Like I've seen a lot of intergender matches. I didn't like it at first, but I saw some indies that I thought did it well and did a good story with that. They didn't need good stories with China. She can beat some guy's ass.
So, as a girl who grew up liking kind of all the things that the boys liked,
Hmm.
I loved China. I thought China playing with the boys was amazing. Um, I'll be honest, I hated the backlash she got for the way she looked. Because why? Just because she's built?
Well, there were people that thought she was a man.
Oh, and that's what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about. And
that's
that's
the
why she had
first
to get
thing people go to.
But that's why she went and got the body enhancing, I'll call it, done.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
the
it's
jaw
sad.
surgery, the boobs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just sad that I'm sure she felt she had to. Honestly. I thought it never took away from her talent. But again, this is favorites, so or how people rank their top 10, so whatever. I had her a lot higher actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think China was legit and was what Medusa and several others could have been. But China was also very difficult, as most artistes are. Um, the drug addiction and all that stuff got to her. But the one thing about China, nobody could take. Um, yeah, the one thing that people couldn't take away from China. Oh no, I found the post about this poll. Who are your
I say that
favorites?
every week. Who cares?
Who are your favorites? I'm gonna send it to the group
I guess
chat.
I'll quit saying the word
Dare you
favorites. My
wrong,
goodness.
dude. You're wrong.
Whatever. So what about China?
All right.
About China, that she actually, I'm not an intergender wrestling guy. I do not believe, as much as I love Tully Blanchard and everything he did, that Tessa Blanchard could beat Brian Cage for a world championship. I 100% believe China could wrestle men. Okay, but that's not disparaging Tessa Blanchard, but she weighs 135
Yes.
pounds, and Brian Cage is
Is a
PED'd
machine.
up, and yeah, he might be the nicest guy on steroids you've ever met in your life. I saw a picture of him today on Instagram, and the dude's bigger than he's ever been. But it's why he's also injured. It's muscle on muscle on muscle on muscle. And that was the one thing that happened to China, though, talking about the transition of men and women. And this is where I was going before I had to send Terry that text message, screenshotted. You're
You didn't
welcome.
have to. I knew. I admitted.
Oh, I had to.
I say
had to.
favorites every week.
I had
It's
to.
still up to people what they vote for. It doesn't matter.
They ran out of women for her to wrestle.
Yeah.
When she quit wrestling the men, they did the neck injury angle. She beat Ivory at WrestleMania. Then she beat Lita. There was no one left for China to wrestle.
Mm-mm.
And how do you go from wrestling for the Intercontinental title and winning it, from Jeff Jarrett and then the Chris Jericho thing and so forth, and the mommy for Latino Heat with Eddie Guerrero and all that, to being reduced to wrestling as one of our colleagues, Pondwater Dave, called them athletic Tims. So they look great, but they ain't professional wrestlers. And someone like China, deserving of the ninth wonder of the world nickname, she's going to eat them up. They don't have a chance against China. And nobody believed they did. And that was the thing. Suspension of disbelief is one thing. Delusion and lunacy is completely different. That's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, got a bit of an interruption here as my son brought his ribbons in
Oh.
that he won at the track and field meet.
Woohoo!
Nice.
Way
Good
to go,
job.
Cyrus.
So I shoot him away, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" Anyway, number 5, Lita, and I had to get this shot, the cleanest shot
God.
that I could.
I loved this woman. Okay? You talk about Terry like in Redheads. She had it all for me. I was in from day one. So if we're gonna talk favorites, no, God, yes. Wrestling ability? Yeah, all right.
She was pretty good. She mixed it up with the guys. She was really instrumental with the Team Extreme with the Hardy Boys. Obviously, the whole Edge, Jeff Hardy, and Lita thing, which she did not appreciate the live sex celebration on Raw. Comes out later. Of course, she's worried about getting fired and all that nonsense. A woman that could do a moonsault, though, is pretty cool. Let's be honest about it. Quit distracting me, Terry. I saw the chat.
Oh yeah, holy crap!
But she was that hybrid that they were trying to get to. Her, Trish Stratus, Ivory, Victoria. They were beautiful women, but they could actually wrestle.
Correct.
And unfortunately, like the Sunnies of the world weren't wrestlers. As good as Tammy Sitch was on the mic or getting attention or whatever, she was not a wrestler. Sable, not a wrestler. Lita was definitely a wrestler. And WWE had finally figured that part out. I think some of the shit she gets or doesn't get for all of the stuff, I don't know. She needed the job. What would you have done? So there's that. But no, I think Lita's fine. I think she's a little high on this list. But again, who knows what the qualifications are? Top 10 from now on, I guess. Ha ha.
No, my deal is when we put it out there, I want people to decide their own parameters. That's my only point. But as far as Lita goes, Lita did most of her career while I wasn't watching. So
yeah.
I didn't really watch Lita at her prime. I watched her when she came back, but and I heard people talking about her, so I knew that she was impressive, and I was impressed with some of the acrobatics, but it was kind of new to me, or just going back and watching, so I didn't see it live.
Yeah, she was willing to take a bump from a man. I mean, when Austin beat her down with the steel chair during that whole 2-man power trip thing, or Edge speared her at one of the TLC I mean, she'd get in there and mix it up. So
I've heard about that one.
Again, like China
and everything.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like China, she straddled both lines, is what I'm saying, to work with both men and women.
And she did it. They were successful at it. Like, you weren't watching the two of them and saying, "God, why? Why is this happening?" They were good at it.
Correct.
All right. Next one.
Number 4, Trish Stratus.
She's
Called
hot.
that. Yeah,
She's hot. I mean, I'm
called that.
sorry.
It's
You can't.
Trish came out in bubblegum pink and a cowboy hat, and the whole wide world went banana.
She could come out in scrubs and people would still go bananas.
And
Well,
she
scrubs,
still looks
I mean,
good 30 years later, or
Yeah.
25. But I'll remember when she came out early 2000s. She was with Test and Albert, TNA, not our TNA, but that TNA, Terry. And she did. She had this bubblegum or baby pink outfit on with the cowboy hat, and the boys went wild. We have a regular listener of this show who loves and adores and worships the ground that Trish Stratus walks on. Um, and that also bragged about beating us in a bowl game challenge, but oh no, I'll
oh,
deal with
okay.
him. Yeah, you know who it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Brian Haremza. I don't care. I'll name him on the show. He loves him some Trish. But guess what? So did every other 30 whatever year old
Yeah.
male back in 2000 loved Trish Stratus. Um, and the thing was, she went from being a valet, well, supermodel in Canada, valet, wrestler, and by the time she was done, she was a very good wrestler for what they had.
She was what they needed at the time, from what I take. And this is another
Yeah,
one that was wrestling when I wasn't watching, but that was a time they needed some transition, and she shouldered that transition.
yeah, and still was victimized by Vince McMahon and his nonsense. With the barking like a dog and getting involved in the Linda angle and all that crap, but did overcome that and got away from a lot of that when she became mostly a wrestler as opposed to somebody they insert in a storyline.
A side piece. Yeah.
All right.
Top
Number
three,
3.
Terry. Oh Lord.
Oh, Terry, are you all right with this?
Mm.
I've
Oh
had
God.
some time to deal with it.
Okay.
So I did find the two belts Becky picture just to show the reason that she needed to be higher. I like the scattered hair, but anyway, Becky Lynch to me. So it's not a secret. Macho Man Randy Savage is my favorite wrestler of all time. I consider him a 5-tool player, and that's what I think about Becky Lynch. She can talk, she can go, she's athletic, she's got the look, and I mentioned 4 things, but you know what I mean. But anyway, she's got everything you need all in one package, and that's why they went to her
Hmm.
recently when they needed somebody to put the belt on, and they can count on Becky.
Absolutely. Oh, I did not mean to do that.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I have
He
no
wasn't
issue with
looking.
Becky Lynch being on this list. For me, it's the same reason I love her husband. The natural, unteachable presence and charisma. Um, if you have to look up Riz, you ain't got it. But I promise you, that family is full of it. And yeah, so her husband just resigned, which we didn't get to because we ran long. Was my bad. But he's going to be signed. He's going to be wrestling into his 40s. He's my age or a couple years younger. She's signed to WWE. This is going to be one of those power couples inside the company. They're going to be on television for a very long time. Rightfully so. She's earned her spot. There are people pissed that she got the title back instead of Liv Morgan or somebody else, be that Nia Jax or whoever.
Well, she also gave it up at one point.
She
Let's
also gave it up.
also remember this is the woman who capitalized on getting her face broke.
Correct.
All right. And she did it so successfully. She had a whole run on being the man.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah,
know if you guys.
that pissed Ric Flair off because he
Sure.
was the man, But
Exactly.
Oh, you
yeah,
mean Nature Boy? Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
that one. He's mad
But
about
that's
everything these days, including a $1,500 bill at a pizza joint in fucking Florida.
but this is my point about how great she is. She knew to grab that
Yeah,
opportunity. Like I don't want to say anybody else wasn't talking in her ear or anything. She capitalized beautifully on that moment. And to me,
agreed.
that's just a superstar. They know what to do, they do it, and they ride it. That sounded really wrong. But you know what I
But
meant.
that's what he said. They capitalize on it and they write it. But
Oh,
she has it. I mean, she
yes,
has
she
it.
does.
And you can't help but watch
Mm-hmm.
it. You know,
Yes.
it's the old story. They can't take the eyes off the pinstripes when you're talking about the Yankees. You can't take your eyes off Becky Lynch, and Terry can't
Never.
help but have that pop.
Is
But
that the man
you,
one?
It's the man.
Yeah.
yeah.
See?
So the whole man thing, you mentioned it. Broken nose, capitalizes on the opportunity. Ronda Charlotte does Becky 2 belts, comes out to The Man Is a Callin' by Johnny Cash, for God's sake. That is how in
Right?
tune
Yeah.
she was with the whole thing. You don't you don't develop that sort of creativity. That is natural
Yes.
creativity. You can't teach it. That type of creativity right there. And then along with her presence, as Terry
Yep.
said, she's a good worker. She's good on the mic. And she is reliable. Anytime they've come to her,
Yep.
she's delivered.
Let's deliver number 2, Rhea Ripley.
What the fuck? How is she not
No.
number
So
one?
now here's why I'm gonna
You
think
know
she's
why.
not number one, because because I know we all know who number one is now, and if you don't, you're not paying attention. But I think the only reason she's not number one, is because she hasn't been around as long, and it's not bad for her. She is top of my list, no question. But did I put her at the top of this 10? No, I didn't, because I thought about, okay, if I'm looking at 1 to 10, who has really stood out in the time that they've been wrestling? So again, I may have looked at this differently. But when you look at Rhea Ripley really fast, look at how she came in to WWE and look at her now. The transformation is insane. She was a goody two shoes blonde, and now look at her. That's
She's
power. That
Mommy.
she's
just
mommy.
screams power to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and with the whole mommy thing, she has absolutely just forced herself to center stage. So I love her. I think she's great.
Empowered,
Absolutely.
emboldened was my number one, and was my number one because it says favorites in the
You are
poll.
really, really pushing on that word. You're reading way too much into this.
I love you, Terry. But you talk about someone who commands a room,
Yeah.
who has a presence, who delivers on the wrestling, who, to your point, has had the evolution, who is a role model and empowering figure for women.
Mm-hmm.
It's her.
Yep.
And she has it in spades. The good news for everybody in WWE is I don't believe she's 30 years old.
You got plenty of time
Right.
with her.
She's got nothing but time left.
Yep.
And the injury came at a really shitty time because she was on a
Yeah.
roll. I mean, she's on the roll of a lifetime this last 400 days or whatever it's been.
But I will say, think about now they have the time to think about where she's going. Like they really have some good time right now, and they could really do some amazing things with her. So yes, it's horrible she got hurt, but I'm thinking now into storytelling, and I'm like, all right, let's go Judgment Day. What is gonna happen next? Like, who are they gonna try to bring somebody in while she's out? Is Liv Morgan going to make another move on Dom? I'm like, there's so much that can happen here now with her out that it's not horrible.
No, and final thought on Rhea from me is, unlike the other 8 women we've discussed, she's universally loved.
Yes. Very good point.
And like I've said it 100 times, Dom gets booed, Rhea's just out there. They're not booing her.
No.
Right.
They're booing him.
Even
And
if the whole group isn't loved, she is.
and it's part of the gimmick at this point that you're gonna boo Dom. I mean, Damian Priest booed him at his wedding, for God's sake. That was, it's the whole thing about Dom. You boo Dom. So that's even over. But nobody is ever gonna boo Rhea Ripley. Ever. She is universally loved. Now, we talked about Trish, not so much. Mickey James, not so much. Lita, not so much. China, definitely not so much. Very polarizing at the time. And I can't believe that Terry, because it's his fault, would have left Nicole Bass off the list now that I'm thinking about it.
No, I made the decision not to put Nicole Bass on the list. I will admit that one.
Because you were around in 99 when Nicole Bass was on the list. But if
Yeah.
we're talking about strong, unique women with a good look, there you go. That was Nicole Bass. And I'm not sure she was a woman. But Rhea Ripley, 100% universally loved, will not be booed, will be the face of the women's division, has supplanted Charlotte Flair as the woman in wrestling, even if it's not this list. So she has definitely taken over Charlotte's spot. And Charlotte's about out of time. And that's a fact.
So number one,
I knew this was
Charlotte
coming.
Flair. I have one of her too. So.
Well, once it wasn't Rhea, I knew it was Charlotte.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I didn't think it was going to be Nikki Bella, for God's sake.
Nobody let Dave vote more than like once, right?
I hope not.
Well,
I mean, the other Dave is going to be pissed at us because Thunder Rosa didn't make this list.
Thunder Rosa didn't make the list.
Nope.
Jade Cargill didn't make the list.
No.
The Bella twins didn't make the list.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Nikki Bella was a capable worker there for a while.
But anyway, let's talk about Charlotte.
Ivory, Victoria, Jackie, Sable. What about Sunny? Sunny didn't make the list, and everybody read the book. What's wrong with y'all?
I feel bad for Charlotte because here we are. You're number one, but let's talk about everybody else.
No, that's just me ranting. Charlotte, great worker, but her time is about up. Mommy has definitely supplanted her. My world.
But I mean,
but she doesn't fail.
Sher Martell, her time's up too. I mean, that's not a comment on her death or anything, but I'm just saying this isn't about right now. It's
I don't think Charlotte's nearly as good as everybody else.
Okay. I do. I think I'm going to say, every time I've seen her wrestle in a big spot, I don't think I've ever felt let down. And to me, that's pretty important. Now, I'm not saying Rhea has let me down at all, but Charlotte's got, like you said with Becky, she's got something where when she's going to wrestle in a big spot, you're going to see something great. She's athletic, she's tall, and she can move, which to me is impressive. Now, it's a little harder now because she's got more, she's a little top heavy, front heavy. I don't know what you want to say, but so to me,
she's got boobs, implants, boobs.
So like when I watch her wrestle now, I'm always just like, okay, are we gonna have a wardrobe malfunction or something? So
I always pictured her as the Hogan.
Yeah, good,
and
very good.
Becky as the Macho Man.
To me, she's overrated. Obviously, she has to carry the baggage of being Ric Flair's daughter. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy because he's a piece of shit. And if you've seen his recent Twitter posts, you get it. He's obviously been day drinking again. But this is what I don't like about Charlotte. If we're talking about aesthetics, if we're talking about carrying them, presentation, confidence, etc., she's got more fucking plastic than Visa MasterCard at this point. She has been cut on more than a fucking episode of Grey's Anatomy. I don't know why somebody with that talent, ability, charisma, lineage thinks that she needs to have her lips done, her cheeks done, her eyes done, her boobs done, her ass done, whatever else done. I
agree.
And none of the other 9 that we talked about, with the exception of China, had such a severe total makeover, and it's for the exact same reason. The exact same reason. And people want to say arguably she's the greatest women wrestler of all time. 14 world championships doesn't make you the best. John Cena wasn't the best wrestler of all time, and he holds the record. So it's who they invested in when the division started to take off. It was Charlotte, it was Bayley, it was Becky, and it was Sasha who's no longer there.
Mhm.
So and
And
Sasha
not on
didn't
our
make
list.
she didn't make the list.
Yeah,
There
she was on
isn't
mine.
one AEW women's wrestler that made this list.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bianca Belair at number 10, Sherry Martell at number 9, Mickey James comes in at number 8. Number 7 is Medusa. 6 is China. Number 5 is Lita. Number 4, Trish Stratus, if I can get it out. Number 3,
That's what he
my
said.
Becky Lynch. Number 2, Rhea Ripley. And number 1, Charlotte Flair.
Back it up. If you're gonna do a Fuji imitation, it's my Becky Lynch. Kind of like my Demolition. I used to love when you get on the fucking mic, start talking about Demolition. My Demolition. By the way, top 10 favorite managers coming soon to TNA Top 10.